Hello and welcome to my Unreal tutorial series. Today we'll be taking a look on creating this black hole effect in our game. And I'm talking about creating a black hole with actual suction behavior, not just the material. So this is going to be an exciting one. Let's first take a look at what we're creating today. Right? That's pretty cool. I can play it again. So as you can see, the black hole actor sort of appears out of thin air, and then after a while, it disappears. And along with its appearance and disappears, those physics objects behaves correctly, gets sucked in, and then gets released. All right. So let's get started. First, I'm gonna create a new folder. Place all of our stuff here. So we only need two assets to be able to recreate this, which is very, very simple. The first one is creating this actual black hole material, so it gives this appearance. So let's start with that. I'm gonna name this BP, MBP, M black hole. And we just need to tweak a little bit on the material property. Here, I'm gonna select the blend mode to translucent and shading model to unlit, because we have this sort of refraction effects on the outer edge is like the refraction. So we'll search for refraction and give it the refraction method. Now it's set to none. Let's give it the first one, index of refraction. And yeah, do note that currently my scalability, so my preview quality here is set to medium, but with one exception, this effect I'm setting it to high, because if you do medium, you don't get this refraction at all. So this is just something to be aware of, because maybe some of you might notice that why is my refraction not working? This likely is the reason. If you also have this refraction method already set up correctly. So okay. Next up, I'm just gonna fill in some material nodes. Those I actually learned from another tutorial. I'll put the link in the description. This is mostly for visual purpose, right? So you can basically swap it to any other materials that you found online. I just find this one to be simple. So yeah. So I'm just gonna recreate this graph here. Multiply. All right. So this will hook up to the opacity. Let's take a look. See this, it's already giving this sort of a separation of layer. And next we'll add the waviness of the outer edge. So time and with speed variable. Another Fresnel node. Just change this a little bit. And get rid of sine wave. Okay, there we have it. I'll include the link of this graph later on. Also, kind of like to give it a different color. So I'll choose perhaps something like space dark blue type of thing. Yeah. All right. I think this looks quite nice. Next up, we create an actor. This is the BP black hole. And we'll just attach this material to a sphere and see what it looks like. Right? Create this little looking dude. As you can see, it's quite small, so I'll just size it up to 3. Right. Right. So it's already looking nice. Yeah. Now it doesn't have any of the behavior. So I'm gonna tackle that right now. And to explain a little bit how this whole thing works, right? This is all physics based, though. These little guys are actually physics simulated. They have mass, gravity, and put in some values here, like damping, and also the collision preset is set to physics actor. I'll explain why we kind of need that. All right, all of those are physics enabled vectors. And inside of a black hole, we'll need to add this component. It's called radial force. And this is a very common physics-based component that will sort of provide either a continuous force or a sudden impulse on physics actor. And you would normally see it in stuff like explosion or like a radiant force field or something. But, if you invert the strength value to negative instead of positive, it'll actually it'll actually create this type of suction force that is kind of attracting actors instead of expelling them. Okay, so radial force is now added. Let's also just rename this for clarity. So this is actually the black hole body, and this radial force is the black hole force field. All right, and just a little bit of a note on what we need to change here. What it's important is first this part here, the radius. So it will not apply any force to object that is outside of this radius. Okay, so let's take a look here. As you can see, we have this sort of blue outline that didn't cover up everything. So I'll actually enlarge that so it covers all of our objects. Now, the second thing is we need to change this object types to affect by default. It already has 4 of them. So I don't need these. I just need the physics body because the object I want to suck in are all physics body under here. If you look at the collision presets, object type. And if I were to turn any one of them, for instance, this one, let's do custom. Let's change it to, I don't know, just whatever, right? World dynamic. It will not work. So later on, you'll see. And the second important aspect is the impulse and force. Like I said, it could be like a sudden impulse or it could be a continuous force. It's explained quite well. And for like a black hole, I want it to be continuous force and it has to be a negative number. I tested negative 8,000 is pretty good for my case, given the mass of my object. So this is actually very directly related to the mass. So if let's say I tweak the bowling pin to 200 kilogram, which is insanely high, note that we changed this one to not being affected because it's a world dynamic, and this one it is affected, but it's like a high mass, and let's see what it does. Okay, hit play. All right, as you can see, this little cube here is not being sucked in, and then this bowling pin is also not sucked in. And note that we actually have collision enabled here, so I need to turn this off to no collision. Now let's take a look again. Okay. Yeah. So this looks much better. Okay. Cool. Next up, I will this sort of more advanced. I mean, you could technically just stop here, right? If you want a black hole that is kind of persistent in your level, but if you're interested how I create this sudden appearance of a black hole and then the disappearance, I'll continue explaining that. Okay, so continuing, let's go to the event graph and do the following. First of all, initially, when this black hole is in the scene, we want it to be invisible to the player. And the way I do that is by setting the scale of our black hole body to 0. And also, at that time, there is 0 suction force. Okay? So when it begins, scale on 3D, set relative scale 3D of our body to 0, and also this strength to be 0. Make sure it's the force strength. Like I said, the impulse strength is a sudden impulse, which is not our black hole's behavior. Next up, we want to give it a delay node. So after a few seconds, perhaps after 3 seconds, we will start, the black hole will appear out of thin air and it'll start doing stuff. So I will create a custom event up here, right? And I'll actually create another one, this here, because we'll do that later. This up here. All right. So we will control this appearance using a timeline so that it is just easier to visually see the change. So I'll add a timeline. I'll do play from start. Let's rename this to appearance. Appearance timeline. Okay. This timeline will be very short because we want to create this sudden effect, and we want to just name it like the ratio, right? And 1, the ratio of 1 will be at its full scale, and then when it's 0, it'll be at the time 0, it'll be 0. The ratio will be 0. So it's quite a linear type of curve for now. All right, so now let's use this ratio to control both the size and the force. So we'll just duplicate this here, update this, and we will multiply this by 3 because we set the size, the scale here to 3 as the initial size. Okay, and we'll plug this in. And then we will also multiply this by negative 8,000. Okay. And this will be the initial, so it'll be the maximum force field here. Okay. So just like that. Let's take a look. Right? That is sort of the behavior we were hoping for. And just a little tweak here is, let's make this curve a little more dynamic. So it'll, like the black hole will sort of expand beyond its maximum radius and then shrunk back, creating this kind of like a more organic growing. All right. Yeah, it's looking much nicer. You can tweak this however you want, right? This is just for demonstration. And let's continue moving on. After this whole thing finished, we kind of wanted to delay a few seconds. So this is how long it's gonna last in our scene. And then finally, after this 8 seconds period, we'll make it disappear. And the disappearing, I'm just gonna copy everything here. And we'll hook this up, reverse from end. And after basically it appears 8 seconds, it's gonna do this 0.3 disappearance. That is just plain reverse the timing here. Okay. And lastly, after this finish, we'll destroy the actor to save us the memory. Okay, let's play it out. Cool. Now wait for 8 seconds. All right. So this is basically it. I want to tweak a last thing here is because our black hole, when in sucked in objects, you can actually see that the center part sort of obscure everything, right? You cannot see anything beyond this black hole, and I kind of want to improve that. So I'm gonna add a collision here that is about 0.75, so 75% of the black hole, and I'm gonna actually enable the collision. And let's reset this. This will be called collision. All right, let's take a look. Okay. Now, maybe that's a little bit too much. That's maybe a little bit too much. I'll put it to 0.5. Okay. Yeah, so now you can see it more clearly how many objects are being sucked in and not getting too obscured by this. Yeah. And then for this object, you might want to just hide it, just hidden in game so that you don't actually see it. Cool. Yeah, so this is basically it. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. It's quite simple, and I think it'll improve significantly on whatever you're building. It'll add a lot of dynamic to your level. So yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, and like. This will help me create more content like this. Thanks for watching.